Hi, and welcome to Horror Recapped. Today, we're going to be talking about the 2015 holiday slasher film, All Through the House. This 80s-style slasher features a deranged Santa figure who rips through a small community in Napa, California for some Yuletide-themed terror. Beware, spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. We open the movie to a bunch of kids tossing things at a Santa display outside of a dark house. They knock the creepy dark Santa mask off the display, revealing a faceless body underneath. Spooked, the kids run off, and an unidentified person picks up the mask and dons it upon himself. Inside, we meet a young boy, Jacob, and his mother, Sheila. Jacob walks through the house, sees Santa outside, and opens the door before falling asleep on the couch. When his mother wakes up, she goes looking for the boy, only to notice he's fallen asleep, but left the door open. She closes the door and goes back towards the shower and undresses. A tense moment passes, but it's her husband who surprises her in the shower. She promises him some time together in the bedroom if he goes and gets ready first. He clambers off to the room, but Sheila is accosted by the masked figure in a Santa suit, who uses a pair of garden shears on her, only to then walk back to the bedroom, where he does the unthinkable to her husband. Next, we meet Rachel Kimmel. She's come to visit her grandmother, Abby, for the holidays. She sees the neighbor woman speaking to the police on her way in, and the two of them share an uncomfortable wave. Quickly, she goes into the house, sneaking a gift under the tree for her deceased mother. Rachel explains she has to rush off and plans to spend her first night Christmas shopping with old friends, Gia and Sarah. She quickly goes through the mail, only to realize that the woman next door has sent her a letter asking if she'd come help her decorate. Rachel seems to pity the woman due to something that happened to her daughter. When she's leaving the house, she sees the woman, Mrs. Garrett, trying to lug out an old Santa mannequin to her yard. Instead of letting her struggle, Rachel rushes to her side and helps the woman get her bearings with the heavy decor. Mrs. Garrett invites her over, and Rachel says she'll be back in a few hours, to which Mrs. Garrett is pleased with the turn of events. Meanwhile, Santa Killer is making his way across town, attacking his next victim with the same pair of garden shears. Mrs. Garrett, back at her house, is clearly unhinged as she carries on scenarios with the mannequins across her home. She's particularly hostile towards the men, screaming and crying at them, before stopping at one female mannequin with a heart-shaped necklace that says, "Daughter." Rachel finally meets up with her friends, but is uncomfortably surprised as she realizes Sarah has arranged for Rachel's ex-boyfriend, Cody, to be there as well. We learn that Rachel has stopped seeing him, and he's clearly not handling the breakup well. Another young couple is introduced, having holiday-themed time together. While the girlfriend ties her boyfriend up, she goes across the house to get something from the kitchen. She sees the garden shears on her counter and is confused, but ignores them. When she looks for them again, the shears are gone. Quickly, she is greeted by the Santa figure, who punctures through her head. He then goes to the bedroom, where the boyfriend is still tied up, but doesn't quite realize what's going on before the Santa figure again takes his shears to a branch. An uncomfortable dinner with friends and her ex ensues, where Cody tries to confront her fear of intimacy and how it is because she lost her mother. Back at Mrs. Garrett's house, she secretly treats mannequins in her home as if they are her former husband Mitchell and missing daughter Jamie. The male mannequin is yelled at for his abuses, and it ends up with her saying, "You're all alike," meaning men, to playfully take revenge on them for inviting her ex. Rachel forces Gia and Sarah to come help her decorate Mrs. Garrett's home. They show up, and Mrs. Garrett explains everything and tells them she has her special eggnog for them to drink while they do their work. And Rachel asks to see her daughter Jamie's old room. Rachel claims to have always wanted to be friends with the little girl before she disappeared. The conversation ends when Mrs. Garrett says she doesn't want to dredge up the past. The two of them head back downstairs before she leaves, saying she has plans for the evening, but plans to come back in a few hours. The girls sit around and share stories, looking at the massive pile of gifts that the old woman has put under the tree for her missing daughter. They share stories of what they believe happened to the missing girl, and one of them suggests it was a mythological Krampus who stole her away. However, the other two laugh off the suggestion. The next set of victims, 2 women, are attacked by the Santa figure. One is assaulted in the bedroom, while the other tries to barricade herself inside the bathroom. She gets a pair of garden shears through the door, and her stomach as well. The Santa figure then forces his way into the bathroom, stealing a pink vibrator off the counter. The girls set off into the house. Sarah leaves to get food. At the same time, Rachel goes upstairs to retrieve the boxes with the decorations. She discovers a photo of her deceased mother and Mrs. Garrett working together as nurses, despite Mrs. Garrett claiming she hardly knew her. Meanwhile, Gia wears the dress initially on the female mannequin, wanting a photo for her social media. Next, the Santa figure goes after Abby wheeling the old woman off a cliff, wrapped in holiday lights. He then takes out Abby's cat as well. For good measure, Rachel goes to her grandmother's to check on her, only to find her missing. When Sarah returns to Mrs. Garrett's house, she's strangled by the Santa figure before finding any of her friends. Over the phone at her grandmother's house, Rachel tells Cody about the love letters she discovered, which indicate that her mother had an affair with Mrs. Garrett's husband, Mitchell. Gia, alone in the Garrett house, is creeped out and spends some time feeling watched and uncomfortable. She tries as best she can to escape the Santa figure, but before she can get out, she realizes the door is bolted shut and tries hiding in a bathroom from her would-be killer. In fear, she attempts to climb out the window as the killer waits for her. Gia makes her way down into the basement, but twists her ankle in the process. Finally, having caught her, the Santa figure takes the hedge trimmers to complete his work. When Rachel returns to the now empty Garrett house, the lights are out, and she slowly makes her way in. Suddenly, Cody calls back to tell her that Mitchell was sent to Ironwood State Prison right around the same time Jamie Garrett went missing. The doors are quietly bolted shut while Rachel isn't paying attention. She creeps through the dark house, discovering plenty of creepy mannequin displays, like a girl in a cage labeled "Time Out." Mrs. Garrett confronts Rachel and spooks her in the creepy basement. She explains that Jamie has finally returned. Rachel is confused, but she explains that Mitchell tried to kill Jamie because she was born a boy. When she gave birth to a boy, Mrs. Garrett decided to take care of it herself, castrating her son to be a girl. When her husband was upset, she framed the mutilation on him, sending him to prison. While she escaped blame, Jamie was committed to a mental hospital for 15 years. However, Jamie has escaped and returned as the Santa figure, wanting Mrs. Garrett to fix him. Soon after, Rachel falls asleep, having drunk Mrs. Garrett's special drugged eggnog. When she wakes, Rachel finds herself tied up in a closet. Jamie tries to attack her, but Cody comes to the rescue. Injured in his confrontation with Jamie, Cody is forced to hide in a crawl space. Rachel escapes only by jumping out of a window, and Jamie chases her in the night. She eventually returns to the house, fighting with Mrs. Garrett before being captured by Jamie. Jamie puts her in a cage next to Cody, who's tied up on a table. This is when Jamie presents a sack of severed ding-dongs that have been collected from all the murders across town, but says he wants Cody's, who has not yet been castrated. In secret, Mrs. Garrett explains she plans to kill Jamie and blames Rachel for being the daughter that she could have had. It turns out her husband, Mitchell, knocked up both Mrs. Garrett and Rachel's mother simultaneously in their affair. On her way out, she murders Cody with a garden shears, having lured Jamie upstairs to the Christmas tree in the family room. Mrs. Garrett attacks him with the garden shears, but to no avail. Rachel gets free and watches as Jamie strangles his own mother. Rachel then sits down next to Jamie, completely unfrightened, seemingly in on the plan with her half-brother all along. They leave together to bury Mrs. Garrett out back, but not before hanging a portrait of a young, ladylike Jamie on the wall. And that's going to wrap things up for today. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this recap as much as we did. Let us know down below what you thought of this one. While you're at it, if you liked the video and want to look into other movies with us, then be sure to like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. That way, you won't miss a single video.